Singing is a journey that requires a lot of learning along the way, and it's no different for singing teachers. So today we're going to share with you 3 things about singing that we wish we knew when we were first starting out.
The first thing I wish I'd known when I first started out singing is that where you begin is no indication as to how far you can go with your voice. I definitely was not one of those blessed, gifted singers, and I have attained a lot of skill over the years, and I was so disenchanted in the beginning, it delayed my development. Which brings me to the second thing I wish I'd known, and that is the value of deliberate practice. I didn't vocalize enough when I first started out because I was so frustrated and disenchanted with the sounds I was hearing. And so I didn't devote a whole lot of time to vocalizing. I was just singing songs, hoping things would get better. The value of practice can't be overstated. And the third thing, and the most important thing, is that we really don't learn to sing. We unlearn the habits that are blocking our singing. Singing is innate, it's baked into our DNA, and so what prevents us is basically the culture we were born into, or the inhibition that rises up in us as we go through our lives, blocks off or inhibits, makes us doubt the very reflexes that need to flow for singing. No one's born holding a guitar or playing the piano, but we are all born connected to our voices, so that which disconnects us has to be something to be unlearned. And so if you view it as something that you're unpacking, you're stripping away layers of inhibition, it's a far easier process than trying to cram in this secret knowledge of how to sing better.
My cat, right here, Cuddles, just gave me the perfect opportunity to talk about the 3 things I wish I knew when I started singing. My name is Nancy Boss, and I'm a voice teacher in Seattle. And the reason why it's important that my cat is here for this video is because I wish that I knew when I first started singing how many things I'm allergic to, including him. So when I first started singing, I thought that scratch in my throat meant I was doing something wrong. Not that I had post-nasal drip that was getting in the way. Lots of things associated with allergies, including fatigue. So I wish I had known at the time that I am loaded with allergies and just take my allergy pills and get on with life. The second thing that I wish I'd known, I really sincerely wish that I'd known this. As a performer, I had serious performance anxiety. And what I wish I knew was that it's not about me. I was worried about what people thought about me. But from my perspective now, as a person who no longer has performance anxiety, it's about delivering the music. You know, kind of like delivering a pizza. It's not about you. It's not about the pizza delivery guy. It is about the music. It is about the product. It's about how you can change the audience. So get over yourself and just sing it. And I think the third thing that I wish I knew when I first started out is that you really have to love the type of music you're singing. And in fact, I was having a conversation last week with Chris Ballou. He's the lead singer for the Presidents of the United States and also now Casper Baby Pants. He and I were talking for my podcast, Every Sing. And what he said is just what I just said. He didn't realize when he was a rock star that his passion was actually for children's music. And when he started doing children's music, it was a relief to his ego. It was no longer about him trying to seem awesome. It was just about delivering this amazing stuff that was inside of him. And that's the way it was with me too. When I stopped trying to meet somebody else's bar and somebody else's expectation, the music just poured out of me. So I wish I'd known that. All right, thank you. Say goodbye, Cuddles. Woo, he's not gonna say goodbye. Sorry.
Three things I wish I knew when I was starting out singing. First, how utterly confusing this instrument is. Because of the way we receive feedback from the instrument and our control is indirect, and the sensations are somewhat misleading and phantom, that we can't see the instrument. It just really can be horribly frustrating. It's not like playing the guitar where the feedback is very direct and we control these muscles directly and we can see it. This instrument, oh my gosh, it can cause amazing amounts of confusion, which leads me to the second thing I wish I knew, which was the proper mindset for learning this instrument. I would recommend anybody really being serious about singing is to learn to practice meditation or some type of mind control where you can really get into the right space, because a wandering, confused mind is not good for this instrument. This instrument really does take focus. And the third thing is, I wish I just knew to be patient and enjoy the process. You want things so quickly and so fast, and you want these high notes immediately, rather than allowing myself to be in the moment and enjoy just the technical aspect of working towards those high notes and appreciating where I was on the journey and having that patience. So there's my three.
Three things that I wish I had known about singing before starting out. Whew, this is a really tough one. There are so many things I didn't know, and if I had known those things, I think I would have made some different choices. So I'm going to kind of approach this as though I am speaking to my younger self. And the first thing that I wish I had known about singing was that the safe path is not necessarily the right or the best path. I grew up in a family that didn't have a lot. We had just barely what we needed and nothing more. And when my parents were newlyweds, they took whatever jobs came their way. And working was about putting food on the table. It was about paying the bills. It wasn't about passion. It wasn't about following your dreams, your heart's desire. And those earliest lessons in financial stability and security left me very fearful of choosing a career path that was less conventional, more creative. It made me really hesitant to just throw my whole self into a career in singing. And so I think if I could go back now and talk to my younger self, I would tell her to just follow her heart, do what she's most passionate about, and just trust that she will pay the bills. Trust that she'll be able to find a way to make ends meet. The second thing that I really wish I had known about singing when I first started out was that you have to get the right training, and that there are different ways of training the voice and different techniques that we can learn. And I know this seems really silly because we have so much access today with the internet to information about singing and techniques and different styles and different methods. But when I was first learning to sing, this was all pre-Google, pre-YouTube, pre-internet as we know it. And so when I found my first singing teacher, it was by word of mouth. He was the teacher of one of my co-leads in a musical that I was in. And I learned a lot under him, and I definitely improved. But I feel as though had I chosen a different teacher who maybe specialized in certain styles and certain sounds, I think that I might have had it a little bit easier along the way, and I think I would have found my voice a lot faster. I think that I would have been able to make my voice do a lot of different things. I would have found more versatility had I found somebody who could teach me the techniques to make the kinds of sounds that I wanted to make, rather than a generic sort of technique, which is what I kind of studied, a generic classical technique on top of that. And part of this comes down to me too, because I was kind of a late bloomer. I didn't really have a clear vision of which styles I wanted to sing in. And I really didn't have any idea that there are different techniques and there are different ways that we can use our voices. And so I always kind of stayed within this safe, predictable, technical, and artistic box. And I didn't know that my voice could do the things that it was designed to do. I didn't know that it could be athletic. I didn't know that it could do so much more than I had been demanding of it. And so I kind of wish that I'd had a teacher who could have showed me that and who could have taught me how to make my voice do a whole lot more. And the third thing that I wish I had known about singing when I first started out was that there's no room in singing for coddling our egos. By that I mean that singing is not safe. It's a risk. Every time you open your mouth to sing, it's a risk every time you set foot on stage. And you can't let the potential for criticism, you can't let the potential for a flop, for falling flat on your face, figuratively or literally, get in the way of your pursuing your goals and your dreams. You have to take those risks. And I guess it comes back to the whole theme that I always fall into, is safety. For me, it was always about safety. And I think that held me back a lot. I think had I just been able to get over some of my anxieties and just realized that it's not always just about me, it's about the audience as well. And if I had really been listening to my heart and been true to myself and had chosen that less conventional and not as safe path, I think in the end I would have just been able to open up a lot more on stage, really express myself more fully, and not been constantly fearing the criticism, constantly fearing the failures. And I think those are the three things that I wish somebody had told me when I was first starting out.
Only three. Okay, I'll do my best to limit this to just three. Firstly, I wish I had known that singing is more than opening your mouth and hoping for the best. Secondly, it would have been handy to know that my voice was not always going to behave in a manner that I liked. For example, when I was young and blissfully ignorant, I didn't fully appreciate that my body was my instrument, so the impact of sickness and the like never really registered for me as important. Of course, I now know better. And thirdly, I wish I had known how hard it would be to sound natural. It takes a lot of work to sound free and easy.
Three things I wish I'd have known about singing before starting out. Number one, make sure that you're business savvy. Even though singing's a creative endeavour, have a business mind about it too. Take charge of your career and don't be passive about it. Work on your voice, but keep focused and have definite achievable goals to work towards. There are many different careers in singing which are perfectly viable and achievable. So rather than waiting for your raw talent to be discovered, as so many people do, find out the career options and make deliberate moves to get to where you want to be. Number two, be prepared to remain humble and be humbled on a regular basis. Don't take singing so personally and try to remain objective when looking at technique or the sound you're trying to achieve. Don't fall into the trap of swinging between on one day thinking you're amazing and then the next day thinking that you've been wrong all along and you should just give up. That's a very unhealthy attitude. Acknowledge and be thankful for progress you've made, but learn when to recognize when things are not going quite right, question it and seek help. Don't be afraid to change your approach if needed. It doesn't mean that everything you've been working on has been wasted. The more you learn, the more you will realize that you don't know. There'll never be a point where you're just going to sit back and appreciate your own talent and just enjoy it. It may sound impressive to your audience, but internally, the passion and drive to advance to the next level will always be there. And in fact, it can seem to get more and more intense the further on you are, and the more knowledge you gain, and the more discernment you get about what sounds good. Your ear for vocals gets more and more refined, and what was acceptable to you last year is no longer acceptable to you now. I've never encountered a singer who ever sat back and said, I've made it, I don't need to learn anything else. No matter how successful they are, there's always something to learn. People think to themselves, I want to be a singer because I want to be able to impress people with my voice, and I want to play to packed out halls, and I want everybody to love me. And in actuality, if you do get to that level, The amount of work and practice and learning that's required for that means that you would have grown a huge amount as a person, and therefore you are not going to even be able to enjoy and appreciate that response in the same way that you assumed you would when you first started out before having all of that experience. Your satisfaction starts to come in different ways, and your ego definitely gets chipped away at, which is necessary to keep you wanting to learn. Just because you believe that you're naturally talented, you don't need to go straight for the huge songs at the expense of ignoring the very basic skills, such as achieving a great tone in the lower end. Whilst you may be talented beyond your years, don't assume that that will always be the case. That was a trap that I fell into, and I received so many compliments when I was younger. I kind of rode on the back of that for a number of years until I realised that actually people are overtaking me and I need to up my game. Just because you're better than those around you right now, it doesn't mean that you are the best in terms of world-class standards. Don't settle for being a big fish in a small pond, even though it feels good. Move up to the next level, be teachable and humble, and be a small fish in a big pond, and learn as much as you can from those people who are more experienced and better than you are. Number 3, sing the way you're naturally supposed to sing, with healthy technique and not too complicated an approach. Only now am I starting to gravitate back to the tone and the material and the technique that I was using when I was a young singer, before I was trained. I spent many years trying to escape my natural sound, which I found lacking, by manipulating the timbre, the placement, the vocal weight, and even singing in the wrong genres. If only I'd have stuck with a more natural approach and been prepared to really work on my technique and been prepared to have a tone that I didn't quite want for a time, but seeing it through until eventually the desired sound started to come through, and I just wanted everything now, and that was the wrong attitude, because I had to eventually sort that out and go back to basics, and that happened later in life for me. And if it had have happened earlier, I would have been much further on than I am now. It's okay to break the rules, experiment, change the sound colour, the vowel shape, everything like that. But I found that having a centre of reference which feels very natural and comfortable and that's strong and consistent is the best way of being able to cultivate a voice that's capable of maximum expression and spontaneity. Something that's very important to me is having a voice that's so well trained with that consistent bass that I'm able to sing songs with conviction very quickly, rather than spending a long time figuring out how to tackle them. Training a consistent bass, which is very natural to your own personal timbre, vocal weight, and genre preference, which you can then feel free to branch out from, is one of the keys, I feel, to becoming a self-sufficient and convincing singer.
What are 3 things about singing that you wish you had known when you were first starting out? 3 things about singing that I wish I had known when I was first starting out. I guess one would be you're normal, and you will eventually find yourself in your tribe. I think that sense that you're all discombobulated and, I can't get this aspect of my singing, maybe I'm broken or busted or somehow. Nonsense, you're normal. Which sort of maps to the next thing. If 3 things about singing I wish I had known when I was first starting. You're normal. You're special. Also, what makes you you and not the person standing next to you in choir or the other kid in your studio that's analogous to your voice type, is that you're special and you're unique. And that's something to be celebrated. We want a soundscape of identifiable individual voices, and you absolutely are special. Your voice is like your thumbprint. And then finally, a 3rd thing about singing that you wish you had known you were first starting out. Habituate practice. Like, I wish I had somebody show me how to practice, because when you practice something long, practice makes permanent, right? When you practice something long enough and regularly enough, it becomes second nature. So a lot of the skills I have now is the result of having practiced them for a long time over time. And I wish I had understood as a younger student that some of the things that I wasn't so coordinated with would come. It didn't matter that maybe I wasn't great at them at that point in time. There's a light at the end of the tunnel, and with enough repetition and enough informed, thoughtful practice, you get great at that stuff. It would have been nice to be reassured a little bit about that.
Hi Karyn, this is Shannon Coates in Toronto. I'm here in the beautiful studio of Lorna MacDonald at the University of Toronto. And I wanted to answer the question about what is the one thing that I wish I had known about singing when I first started, or when I was a young singer. And I think the one thing, perhaps it was more things that I was supposed to answer, but there's one main thing. The one main thing that I wish I had known, and the thing that I do try to instill in my students, is that it's not enough to have talent, it's not enough to be musical, it's not enough to have something to say, it's not enough to have a great personality, it's not enough to have a beautiful voice. That's just not enough. What separates the talented from the professional singer or from the successful singer is hard work. So hard work will outstrip talent any day of the week. And by hard work, I also mean intentional work, understanding the process of work, and what to do, how to work, how to practice, understanding your instrument, understanding how to learn music, understanding how to perform, working on performance practice. All of these things together, it's just not enough to be talented or have a beautiful voice. The defining factor, the determining factor is how hard you work and how smart you work. That's my answer for, was that question 7? For whatever question that was.
3 things about singing that you wish you had known when you were first starting out. I wish I'd have known how difficult it is to develop the skills, because I probably wouldn't have ever bothered starting. And I wish I'd have known that even once I got good at singing, it wouldn't solve other problems in my life. That's 2. The third one would be, I wish I'd have known how simple it really is. Because once you understand how simple it is, and you can work on the things that really help, you can get rid of a lot of the FUD and the gossip and the clutter, and you can just get down to brass tacks. It's very hard to get to that point. It took me a long time.
Hi, my name is Christin Rondeau. I'm a soprano and voice teacher with Sand Dollar Music in Dayton, Ohio, and I'd like to share 3 things about singing that I wish I had learned sooner. So the first thing is, I wish I had learned to raise my soft palate sooner. I, for years, thought that I was lifting my palate, and turns out I wasn't. And then when I actually did figure it out, oh my goodness, it was a totally different sensation than what I thought it was or what I thought it should be. And there was a totally different sound behind that too. And it was really exciting to discover this whole new element to my voice that I didn't know it was there before. So for some reason, it just didn't click for me. And it took a really long time. I was a late soft palate bloomer. And I wish I had gotten that sooner. The second thing I wish I had learned sooner was to ask questions, to be unapologetic and just whatever doesn't make sense to me, no matter how dumb I feel in asking the question, just ask the question. Voice teachers want to help. And I, for whatever reason, was intimidated to ask my teacher questions that I thought were silly or that I should already know. And on this side of things, I wish that I had asked a lot more questions a lot earlier on, because it helps you take responsibility for your musicianship and for your vocal development. The last thing that I wish I had learned sooner was to be patient and gracious with myself. I have always been very hard on myself about my voice and about my vocal development. And I went through a period of about 4 years where I just stopped singing altogether. And I look back on that time and I really regret it. And I wish I had been more patient with myself and more consistent in the journey, because that's 4 years of singing that I lost out on, 4 years of practice that I lost out on. And on this side of things, I think, I wish I'd just been more patient and understanding that everyone's journey is different, everyone's process is different, and everyone absorbs certain technical elements at different rates. There's not a steady rate of growth for each person. Sometimes things click in a little bit later, and that's okay. So, things I wish I had known: how to raise my soft palate sooner, to ask questions and questions and questions, and to be more patient and more forgiving with myself in my vocal journey. Thanks.
Hi everybody, this is Kate Baker. Okay, 3 things that I wish I knew. I wish I knew to practice harder either on the piano or the guitar when you're young, and learn to read music and sight sing and join a gospel choir, because there you're going to be able to feel the joy and the spiritual connection and the harmonies. And I think that's really important, you know, for your heart and your soul. It allows you to be free, okay, and at a young age. And the second thing is to remember that you don't have to be perfect. In fact, the most beautiful things in life come from the imperfections. So instead of thinking you need to develop a thicker skin, no, don't do that. We want to keep the walls down, because out of that comes the real vulnerability, and then you're able to really create and stay in the moment, so you can react to the music and write the most amazing songs right from your heart. Okay? All right, here's one. This is technical. Trust your instincts. I remember, you know, I had this secret, right, that I just wasn't good enough. And I wanted to learn how to belt, and I couldn't. It was like looking for Godot. I would go to teacher, and no one could help me, right? And I just thought, well, I guess I can't do it. You know, I'll figure another way, but I won't be able to do that. Finally, I got to this teacher, and she showed me in one lesson. And I thought, oh my God. And she goes, where were you all these years? I'm like, where were you? You know, and the truth is, sometimes the teachers don't know. So if you're not getting what you need, move on. Go to somebody else who can help you, because there are people that can really help you. And if you don't like the sounds you're hearing, it's not you. Okay? So I just want you to know you are good enough. And the other thing is, if music is really your calling, don't have a plan B. Don't tell your parents I said that. I'm just kidding. Go for it 100%. 100%, because even if the road changes, you'll be able to adapt. Okay? Life allows you that. But when you have a calling for music, believe me, I've tried to get away from it about 4 million times. It calls you home. Okay? So I guess I learned now that I'm old is, you know, honor it and love it. And just be the best you can be. The best you can be from the core of who you are. Okay?
Hey singers, my name's Christopher David Mitchell, vocal coach here in London, and today I want to share with you the 3 things that I wish I knew before I started singing. Number 1, singing is not a one-size-fits-all approach. When we grow up in the world, everything around us creates our belief system, how the world works, and that's influenced by the culture around us. Sometimes this can be a limiting belief system, and certainly with regards to singing, when I grew up, I until 21 years old, I was just taught one vocal technique. That was the most popular by far in the UK, here where I am. And I thought that's all there was to it, that was the definite answer. When I eventually traveled the world, America, Denmark, Norway, Italy, I just couldn't believe how much amazing different information there was out there. Some amazing coaching going on, some amazing singing, and you learn from all of that. I'm so grateful for everyone, every coach that I ever learned from, but they all brought something very different. And I'm so glad that I traveled to all those different countries to find that. I don't believe singing is a one-size-fits-all approach. And actually in my coaching now, I really want to implement everything I've learned from all the different techniques, singers and coaches from around the world. They really then all come together to form a complete understanding of the voice for me. It's certainly improved my coaching dramatically. Number 2, being a successful singer is not just about singing. Growing up, I had the belief system, here we go, that it was just about the singing. And if I became the best singer I could, then that would definitely mean that I would then be the most successful I could be. When really there are so many aspects that create that whole package of a successful singer. Singing is an art form. And sometimes art forms can be a blessing and a curse. If you think about other athletes, like, I don't know, when Usain Bolt was winning, he was definitively the best and the most successful because he came in first place and that's it. There's just no arguments about that. But who's the best singer? So really look at your favourite artists in the world, favourite singers. Are they really just the best singers? Or are there so many factors built into that product, if you will, that create that singer to be so successful? I've got the pleasure at the moment of coaching artists such as Boy George, who would be the first to tell you that it's not just about the singing. He's regarded as an icon, and that is because everything fits together perfectly. Number 3, it's okay to fail. I've had some of my best breakthroughs through failure. As Ryan Holiday says in his book, The Obstacle is the Way. Adversity is the way to success. And when you have a bit of a hard time with your singing, that's normally when you're about to get a huge breakthrough. You know, a few years ago, I didn't have any falsetto in my voice. It had completely gone. And I was frustrated, I was miserable, and I just thought, I'm just never going to get this. But that was a good thing, because it put me on a path of searching and discovering and finally finding the answers on it. And now it's one of the best parts of my voice. So I'm grateful that I struggled with it, because it's now made it just so easy for me. You've got to put yourself in that mindset where you always love discovering. Nothing's ever wrong. You almost love the failure, because you know that it's going to lead to so much development, so much learning. Be a constant learner in life. Devote yourself to being a constant learner in life. Know that singing isn't a skill that's going to happen overnight. And so please enjoy the journey. Enjoy building yourself up. Don't be frustrated. Don't ever get down or negative if you have a bad performance. I guarantee that if you change your mindset, if ever you do have a bad performance or any aspect of failure, you will learn from it, you will grow, and you will become the best you've ever been.